This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Good afternoon, and thanks for checking in. A healthy debate on the reach of free speech is underway across America following ABC's decision to suspend late-night talk show host Jimmy Kimmel.
We don't have to speculate about what comes next. The suppression of Democratic Party speech is coming next.
This should send a chill or a shiver up every American spine.
This is a red line that has been crossed for the First Amendment, for the right of people to speak.
Kimmel taken off the air for making controversial comments about the Charlie Kirk assassination. Former Vice President Mike Pence.
The First Amendment does not protect entertainers who say crass or thoughtless things, as Jimmy Kimmel did in the wake of a national tragedy.
In his Monday monologue, Kimmel suggested the alleged assassin in the Kirk killing is a MAGA Republican. FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr called that a bridge too far.
It was appearing to directly mislead the American public about a significant fact.
All the major late-night talk show hosts, from Jon Stewart to Jimmy Fallon and Stephen Colbert, came to Kimmel's defense last night in their opening acts. Even ex-President Barack Obama is weighing in. More from reporter Rory O'Neill.
In a post on X, former President Obama called the indefinite suspension of Jimmy Kimmel, quote, the kind of government coercion that the First Amendment was designed to prevent. He went on to say media companies need to start standing up rather than capitulating to it.
Texas Congressman and Charlie Kirk friend Brandon Gill.
Listen, I don't want to hear about cancel culture or hear any whining from the left, the same political movement that spent years and years and years trying to silence, censor, and deplatform conservatives for simply saying that men can't get pregnant.
Vice President J.D. Vance blames the Kirk assassination on the left-wing indoctrination of the accused gunman. He suggests political violence is more a problem on the left than the right.
Yes, absolutely. By all means, let's take down the temperature. But if you want to take down the temperature and you're on the left of center, the first and most important thing you can do is look in the mirror.
A recent YouGov poll finds 1 in 4 liberals believe violence is sometimes necessary to achieve political goals. For conservatives, that number was 1 in 25. Sunday's memorial service for Charlie Kirk will have Super Bowl level security. The funeral will happen at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona at 11 o'clock local time, 2 p.m. our time. The Secret Service will be coordinating security with state, local, and federal agencies. President Trump talks TikTok today with Chinese leader Xi Jinping. They'll finalize a deal to put the social media app under our control. Tech analyst Ian Shure.
This all began during the first Trump administration when he announced that TikTok was a national security threat and said that it should be banned from the United States. Ever since then, though, it has turned into a massive social media network, particularly popular among young people.
Correspondent Linda Kenyon has more on the TikTok transaction today between the U.S. and China.
The president said TikTok has great value.
I like TikTok. It helped get me elected.
The deal, says Trump, would remove China's ownership from the social media app.
The kind of money we're talking about is very substantial, and it'll be owned by all American investors.
President Trump and the previous administration both cited national security concerns for banning TikTok in the U.S. Linda Kenyon, Washington.
The committee in charge of vaccine policy for this country wants changes to childhood immunizations. Mark Strassman has that story.
A CDC advisory committee voted Thursday to change its MMRV vaccine recommendations. The vaccine protects against chickenpox and measles, mumps, and rubella. The current recommendation is that a child can get the combination shot when they turn 1. But now the committee suggests kids wait until they turn 4. The panel also recommends younger children get 2 separate vaccines, one for chickenpox and the other for measles, mumps, and rubella.
Dr. Deborah Birx served on the president's COVID advisory team during his first term.
I wouldn't want any child to get measles, mumps, or rubella or varicella, chickenpox. I was the generation that lived through all of that. We saw the consequences of that. And so I think if you talk to people my age, we're all very supportive of childhood vaccinations.
The newly formed advisory panel on immunizations will make its recommendations today for the COVID vaccine. A California county is the first in the country to ban junk food in grocery store checkout aisles. Michael Wallace has that report.
Contra Costa County supervisors in the Bay Area passed the ordinance for stores larger than 2,000 square feet. Arlene Sandu is the county's health specialist.
Overwhelmingly, their customers are asking for more healthy options.
Allie Wolgamuth is with Bay Area Community Resources, which pushed for the change.
Food placement matters. Food companies spend billions of dollars to secure placement of unhealthy products in checkout aisles.
Adam Saba, manager of Billy Bly's Ranch Market in Bay Point, is all for it.
Better community, you have better health, and everyone will benefit from it.
The junk food ban in Contra County, California will take effect in November. The Los Angeles Dodgers pitcher Clayton Kershaw has announced he will retire at the end of the season. The 11-time All-Star played all 18 of his big league seasons with LA. He won 2 World Series titles and captured 3 Cy Young Awards. Kershaw's one of just 4 lefties with at least 3,000 strikeouts. Steve Carlton, Randy Johnson, and CC Sabathia are the others. It wasn't pretty, but the Buffalo Bills picked up a 10-point win over their division rival, the Miami Dolphins, last night. 31-21 your final from Highmark Stadium. Bills head coach Sean McDermott.
Our guys made a couple more plays, and I thought the grit, the mental toughness of our football team was on display throughout the game, in particular in the fourth quarter there.
A Terrell Bernard interception with 3 minutes to play sealed the win for the Bills, who moved to 3-0 in the season. Josh Allen threw for 3 touchdowns. James Cook rushed for over 100 yards. More on the game with Randy in sports coming up. Also ahead on today's Noon Report, lack of rain, problematic, will say their names in York County, and policing pot in New York State.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams, heading into the final weekend of official summer with some fine early fall-like weather. Forecast details are coming up.
All right, Kevin, we'll see in about 10 minutes. Let's check the stories making news where you live. Can you have too much of a good thing? Big question mark there, and apparently, yes, you can. The lack of rain of late has led to drought conditions across large chunks of the listening area. Penn State hydrologist John Kirk says what's needed most is a soaking rain spread out over a couple of days.
If we could get a good soaking rain of maybe 1 to 2 inches, maybe even 2 to 3 inches in spots, and we get that over a long duration, maybe a day or a day and a half, that would really help. You don't want all of that to fall in just a couple hours, because then that might cause flooding concerns, and we would lose a lot of the benefit of that.
Our next chance of any meaningful precipitation is not until early next week. While there are no water restrictions in place yet, Kirk suggests it might be a wise idea to start conserving where you can. Pennsylvania police have released the names of the 3 law enforcement officers who were killed in the line of duty this week while serving an arrest warrant at a home in York County. Detectives Cody Becker, Mark Baker, and Isaiah Emmenheiser were shot to death in an ambush by a 24-year-old man. 2 other detectives were wounded. The gunman was killed by police. Pennsylvania Attorney General and former York County DA Dave Sunday.
Police officers do not ask for awards, accolades, or attention. But the truth is, every single day, they're standing up for their communities, for many people who they have never met before, and putting their lives on the line.
The cop killer had been stalking his ex-girlfriend at the scene of the crime the night before that exchange of gunfire. Pro-life activists in Pennsylvania are gearing up for Monday's March for Life at the state capitol in Harrisburg. Thousands are expected to attend. The rally starts at 11 a.m. If you'd like to take a bus trip there, there's information online at PAFamily.org. pafamily.org/march. That's pafamily.org/march. The 5th annual March for Life is Monday. New York lawmakers promise to improve how the state does business in the burgeoning pot industry when they reconvene in Albany in January. Democratic State Senator Jeremy Cooney of Rochester.
We have to do better in New York to make this a viable industry, which people want to get into.
200 dispensaries were recently declared illegal for violating a state law. That law requires a 500-foot buffer zone between pot shops and schools as well as houses of worship.
Right now, there's a lot of uncertainty in the retail marketplace, meaning that people don't want to invest in dispensaries, legal dispensaries, if they fear that they're going to get their permits taken away.
New York has raked in more than $2 billion since the first recreational marijuana dispensary opened nearly 3 years ago. Critics argue the proliferation of pot will backfire big time, as science shows cannabis use disorders are on the rise, especially in young people. The assassination of Charlie Kirk at a university in Utah has the head of SUNY in New York taking action. John King is in charge of the 64 campuses that make up the State University of New York.
We've reminded all of our campuses about being thoughtful about campus safety procedures in light of the really terrifying increase in political violence that we're seeing across the country. Our university police department is prepared to support our campuses.
The SUNY chancellor says school officials are closely monitoring social media posts for any additional threats as well. We're learning more today about a cyber attack last month that targeted the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office. Family Life's Brian Query has that story, new at noon.
The Attorney General's office has confirmed that last month's outages of its website, phones, and email were caused by a cyber attack. Officials say a malicious actor encrypted files in an attempt to extort a ransom, but the state has not paid. It's unclear what files were targeted or how much money was demanded. The office says the August 11th attack has not disrupted prosecutions or civil cases, though some deadlines were extended. Staff continue their work using alternate methods while investigators try to determine what information may have been compromised. Brian Query, Family Life News.
Thank you, Brian. A male middle school student in Rockland County, New York, has been arrested in an online sextortion scheme that may have victimized hundreds of students. Police say this boy posed as a girl and solicited inappropriate photos from fellow classmates. Parents are outraged.
It's scary. It's something very scary for the mom.
I feel really surprised, and I feel really shocked, too.
The investigation began 7 months ago after several students told a school resource officer they were being coerced online. The lead detective, Andrew Geiger, says there are victims all over the world.
It turned into, well, if you don't send me more, I'm going to send these ones that you sent to me to your friend group.
Clinical psychologist Dr. Hersha Diaz says it's important for moms and dads to talk to their children about the dangers that lurk online.
Our children are experiencing this type of harassment and sextortion over the internet, and we really didn't experience this growing up throughout our own childhood. So it's really important for us to listen deeply.
The student in question faces 3 felony charges. Remember, he's only a middle school student. Cops say this kid demanded gift cards as payment. The late Pennsylvania state budget is causing leaders of one county to cut back. That county is Westmoreland County, and employees there are being furloughed due to the fiscal impasse. State parks will also restrict operations. The budget was due June 30th. It's September 19th today. U.S. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand of New York has introduced a bill on Capitol Hill that bans government officials from holding or trading stock. Here's reporter Natalie Migliori.
The senator says the No Stock Act would ban government officials, including members of Congress and Supreme Court justices, along with their immediate families, from holding or trading stocks and other financial assets.
No one should go into public service to get rich.
but for far too long, the rich and powerful have set the rules of the road in Washington to benefit themselves and not working families.
Gillibrand says even though the Stock Act was passed in 2012, recent data shows 1 in 3 Congress members traded stocks between 2019 and 2021. I'm Natalie Migliori.
Sports news next. It's the 2-minute drill right here on the Family Life Noon Report.
Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. Bob, it wasn't pretty, but the Buffalo Bills beat the Miami Dolphins 31-21 on the Thursday night football matchup. Josh Allen tossed 3 touchdown passes. James Cook rushed for another score and over 100 yards in the contest. Bills now 3-0 on the season. To baseball, 7 scoreless, 13 strikeouts, and 3 hits. That was the outstanding line on Max Fried as the Yankees shut down the Orioles 7-0. The Mets captured the rubber game of their series against the Padres 6-1. Brandon Nimmo and Pete Alonso both went deep for the Amazons. We'll talk about bringing your A game. In fact, I'd call this his A-plus game. Hunter Green of the Cincinnati Reds tossed his first career complete game, and it was against the Chicago Cubs. Green allowed only 1 hit and 1 walk. He struck out 9. The Reds won the game 1-0. And the win, by the way, keeps Cincy just 2 games behind the Mets for the final wild card spot. Other scores in the Big saw the Guardians defeat the Tigers 3-1. The Rays shut out Toronto 4-0. Oakland knocked off Boston 5-3. Seattle shut down KC 2-0. Miami outlasted the Rockies 9-7. The Brewers 5-2 winners over the Angels. And the Dodgers edged the Giants 2-1. And speaking of the Dodgers, one of the best ever to pitch in the big leagues is calling it quits. One day before he is set to make what will now become his final regular season start, Clayton Kershaw announced his retirement. Kershaw is a 3-time Cy Young Award winner, has 222 career victories over 18 seasons. Yeah, he'll be a shoo-in for the Hall. That is a look at sports.
Yes, he will. Thank you, Randy. Have a wonderful weekend. Still to come on the Noon Report for Friday. The Capital Connection crew. Weekend weather with Kevin Williams and how Charlie Kirk entered eternity. It's a powerful testimony you don't want to miss after this.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. According to their Instagram account, the Women's March UK will now be called Intersectional Uprising. The biggest irony in this rebrand that erases women is that on their website, the statement, "In the War on Women," is right next to the alert that the Women's March is no longer about women. In the new film Truth Rising, Seth Dillon of the Babylon Bee remarked that some headlines read like comedy. This would be one of them if the stakes were not so high. In this cultural moment we live in, a women's rights movement that erases women is the inevitable consequence of terrible ideas. Back in 2020, Joseph Backholm asked protesters at the Women's March in Washington, D.C. the question, "What is a woman?" The responses were beyond parody. Some were angered at the question, others looked around, worried someone might hear their answer and not be pleased. Others regurgitated the incredibly dangerous non-answer, "Whoever identifies as a woman." A few weeks later, teenagers at the annual Pro-Life March for Life had far less trouble giving a much clearer response. Now, of course, everyone really knows, to some extent or another, what a woman really is, and that includes Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. So advocates of radical gender theory could only shame people who said out loud what we all know to be true, with feigned outrage that anyone would ask such a bigoted question to begin with. And so the movement that began to protect women instead erases them. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint.
All right, John, thank you very much. Let's head outside next. Mr. Kevin Williams.
Here is your Family Life weather forecast for this afternoon. Sun and clouds, cooler than recent days in New York State with temperatures mainly in the 60s, but temperatures reaching the 70s to near 80 in parts of Pennsylvania. Now for tonight, a chilly night, turning clear Low temperatures in most of the area down into the 40s. Be some patchy valley fog late. Tomorrow, sunny and crisp. Highs from the mid-60s to the mid-70s. And then partly sunny, warmer Sunday with high temperatures in the 70s to near 80.
Thank you, Kevin. It's Friday, folks. Congratulations. You've made it the 19th of September. And this is the Noon Report on Family Life. This is Capital Connection. Fridays during the Noon Report, we give you direct connection to all that's happening in Albany and Harrisburg with the experts on the issues at the state capitals. They are Jason McGuire with New York Families and Michael Geer at the Pennsylvania Family Institute. Well, guys, we recorded our show last Wednesday about 5 hours before it happened, the tragic shooting death of Charlie Kirk. We would be remiss if we did not get your thoughts. Jason, I'll start with you. I know a lot has been said, but is there anything left to be said that hasn't already been said about Charlie Kirk?
Well, I think this was a unique moment in the fact that when this happened, there was such a rapid response and it crossed organizational boundaries. Nobody was protecting their turf when they were speaking out positively about the work of Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA. It's not to say that people didn't have disagreements maybe with approach or style or tone or tenor or different things, but in that moment, you saw a conservative movement across the country, some Christ-based, some not, just responding in very positive ways to all that Charlie Kirk had done in his very short life. But it also revealed some darkness that we see in the American psyche today. There was a YouGov poll that showed that most Americans across the political spectrum say political violence is never justified, but younger and more liberal Americans are more likely to disagree. That's the striking part for me, is you saw it in a way that we did not see it so visible before. And I'm not even thinking about politicians at the highest levels. It was teachers, it was nurses, people on social media were reacting in some very dark ways. And I think there's something we have to be very conscious of in American psyche right now.
Michael, Charlie Kirk always used to say the antidote to political violence was more speech, not less speech. He was in that lion's den more than anybody else, in a winsome sort of way, talking about some of these controversial issues. As Jason alluded to, there's been a lot of hate speech since his murder. Is it right to crack down on this sort of activity?
I think it's legitimate for employers and for others to call it out, and in cases where people are celebrating death, to potentially lose their job. The question is whether government gets involved in that sort of thing or prosecutes people because of that speech. Those are two different things, unless, again, if someone is calling for murder, then the government does get involved. So there is a line between speech we don't like and speech that's actually calling for violence and harm to other human beings.
Yeah. Jason, it's time to move on some other issues in the news this week. There was a Siena poll out that I thought was interesting. It basically said this: if it's Governor Hochul versus anybody else in next year's election, she loses. But if it's Governor Hochul against Elise Stefanik, well, right now she's got a 25-point lead. How do you make sense of that Siena survey, and how vulnerable is Hochul next year?
Well, I think you've got a couple of things going on. One is the start of the new school year. People are starting to tune in a little bit more after the lengthy summer. Poll numbers are going to move around. The governor has been moving around the state dealing with this cell phone ban that is very popular. And so I think that's an issue that has played to the governor's favor. Remember, the governor is going to have to go through a very difficult budget cycle next year, and decisions that are made there will likely also have an impact on her polling. So polling numbers are going to move. The other thing that's reflected, I think, in that polling is that in New York, President Trump is very unpopular. And if you have a candidate who is aligned very closely with President Trump, that is impacting poll numbers in that gubernatorial race. So there's a lot of things in play, and I'll just say we have a lot of time between now and November 2026.
Yeah. Well, the Pennsylvania budget was due at the end of June, Michael. It's now September 19th. That's way past the due date. Governor Shapiro says Republicans in the state legislature are holding this up on purpose to make him look bad in next year's election. What say you?
Well, he's right in terms of it's the Republican Senate that is not playing ball with the governor in terms of his spending priorities, but those spending priorities would head the state into a very bad fiscal position that impacts the future generations in Pennsylvania. We need to have a balanced budget, and I don't think it's being done to harm the governor, but rather because of fiscal responsibility that Republicans believe should be in place.
Gotcha. We talked about Governor Hochul, Jason. She this week also made news by endorsing Zohran Mamdani for mayor of New York City, the self-avowed socialist who wants government-run grocery stores and $30 an hour minimum wage. That Zohran Mamdani. What advantage does the governor see in hitching her political wagon to him? Could this endorsement hurt her next year?
Yeah, it's interesting to see the endorsement come out because Mr. Mamdani is already up double digits in polling in this particular race. So I don't think he needed the governor's endorsement. Really, it's a matter of what is the governor going to get out of this. She did not do well in the last election in New York City. Her numbers were depressed there. Yeah. And by aligning herself with Zohran Mamdani, she may be looking to get ahead of that and try to boost her numbers in New York City ahead of next year's gubernatorial race. She also begins to shore up on the left flank by having the Democratic Socialist of America as one of her endorsed candidates. Then she will also show herself as being more progressive and may help herself in a Democratic primary next year.
Are you surprised that former Governor Cuomo is polling so badly this late in the game?
You know, I think Governor Cuomo has failed to realize that his moment has come and passed. He was at his peak of popularity during the early days of COVID when he was large and in charge. But since that time, he has been waning. He is really a shell of what he was as a former candidate. And I just don't think he can read the room right now. And frankly, the whole Democratic Party is moving to younger candidates. And the more senior members of the party are having a very difficult time seeing themselves to the door in the midst of that.
Gotcha. Well, Michael, I know Monday's a big day for you. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but I want to talk about abortion politics first. You know, everyone's looking ahead to the 2026 midterms. It's a big election this year in Pennsylvania with those 3 state Supreme Court seats on the ballot. Talk about why that matters so much when it comes to protecting life in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, those 3 seats are actually retention votes for sitting members of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. 3 Supreme Court justices who ran as Democrats and are endorsed by Planned Parenthood want to get another 10-year term in the Supreme Court, and that's the retention vote. They've all pretty much sworn allegiance to the issue of abortion. They do it in kind of hidden sort of ways, but the Planned Parenthood endorsement makes it very clear that these are Supreme Court justices who want to advance the abortion agenda. That is, I think, very clear to those who observe that court race.
How vulnerable are they this year?
Well, it's interesting because there's a lot of sentiment just sort of against, as Jason just said, older politicians being in office, and so some of the youth vote may just think it's time for a change and may not look at the issues so much. The other thing is a voter turnout in these off-year elections, and so really turnout is going to be the difference in whether they survive this retention vote or not.
Gotcha. Jason, the New York State Legislature this year, much to your dismay and to the dismay of many pro-life New Yorkers, approved a doctor-assisted suicide bill. That happened months ago, but there's still been no action from the governor. How come?
Yeah, you know, I think if the governor was really anxious to sign this bill, she would have done it very quickly. I think there is some thought and dialogue going into this process. I don't know where the governor's ultimately going to land on this. We are certainly hoping for a veto, but the delay in time that is passing does indicate that I think those that are reaching out to her are having an impact, and New Yorkers that are concerned about assisted suicide should continue to reach out to the governor's office and urge that veto.
So if she doesn't sign it, do they have to approve the legislation again next year? How does that work?
Yeah, if she does not sign the bill into law this year, if she chooses to veto, it could return next year, but I think it's unlikely because even in that scenario, they know they're going before a governor again who is prone to veto it. And so if it can be defeated this year, it's likely a victory for at least a couple of years or more.
Yeah, I know, Michael, you've got a busy weekend ahead of you getting ready for Monday, the 5th annual March for Life in Harrisburg, one of the largest rallies there is on the Capitol grounds this year. Monday, September 22nd. What is the message you hope to bring to the state capitol then?
Well, Well, we continue every year, this is the 5th annual, to bring the message that every life is precious and that the legislature and the public need to work to protect every human life from conception until natural death. That is the basic message of that. And then there's particular legislation that we'll be drawing the audience's attention to. But basically, it's let's celebrate life, especially in a society that we've witnessed the cheapening of human life. We need to turn our focus back to protecting every human life.
And there are buses headed to Harrisburg for that rally if you'd like to attend the 5th annual March for Life. Michael, where can folks learn more online?
PAFamily.org.
And stay informed on all the issues in the news in Albany. Jason, where can folks find you?
NewYorkFamilies.org.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. Capital Connection airs Fridays during the noon report or online anytime at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or FamilyLife.org.
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. We head into the weekend with some nice, crisp autumn weather. High pressure will generate a clear and chilly night tonight. Bright sunny day tomorrow. Moisture will increase the clouds a bit on Sunday, then some beneficial rains come our way early next week. For this afternoon, sun and clouds, cooler than recent days in New York State with temperatures mainly in the 60s, but temperatures reaching the 70s to near 80 in parts of Pennsylvania. Now for tonight, a chilly night, turning clear. Low temperatures in most of the area down into the 40s, with some patchy valley fog late. Tomorrow, sunny and crisp, highs from the mid-60s to the mid-70s. And then partly sunny, warmer Sunday with high temperatures in the 70s to near 80.
All right, next chance of rain early next week. We do need it. Thank you, Kevin. And finally today, we're remembering Charlie Kirk. A funeral service for the 31-year-old cultural icon will happen this weekend in Arizona. Kirk was killed last week while speaking to college kids at an outdoor event in Utah. Close friend and Christian author Frank Turek describes what happened in the car on the way to the hospital as Charlie Kirk entered eternity. Take a listen.
I got in the car because if there was any way I could save him, I had to do something. And Charlie's laid out in front, just right in front of me. And Charlie's so tall, we can't close the door. We drove 4 miles all the way to the hospital with the door open. And I'm yelling, come on, Charlie, come on, come on. We're cutting through intersections, we're just beeping the horn. This is not an emergency vehicle. There's no lights. There's none of this. And I go, we got to start CPR. So I try and start that. Charlie wasn't there. His eyes were fixed. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking past me right into eternity. He was with Jesus already. He was killed instantly and felt absolutely no pain. That's what I was told later. But of course, we had to try. By the way, there was just nothing any of us could do about it. We were giving him CPR, but nothing was happening. It wasn't like if we had better first aid or we had better medical facilities or we were faster to the hospital, we could have saved him. We couldn't. So if that's any comfort at all, Charlie didn't suffer. He was gone. He was with Jesus, absent from the body, present with the Lord. That's where he was.
Christian author and mentor to the late Charlie Kirk, Frank Turek. Kirk's funeral happened Sunday in Glendale, Arizona. And that's our world, the world we live in. Friday, September 19th. Have a wonderful weekend. I'm Bob Price, Family Life News.
You've been listening to The Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at FamilyLife.org.